Hello, and welcome to Musings from the Mystics. I'm Marnie, your guide on this crazy and sometimes tumultuous journey we call life. Each episode, I'll share my musings about the current energetic climate, how I'm navigating these times, and my tips to help you get the most out of your journey. So join me to awaken, be empowered, and expand beyond the third dimension. So today I have Natalie with me, and we are going to talk about the current eclipse climate that we are all really experiencing right now. So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you. It's glad to be back again. There is definitely a lot going on.
Ooh, yeah, unless you're living under a rock or completely off social media, we are in eclipse season. There's a lot astrologically happening. This past week, it was like 3 different planets, one day after another, moved into new phases. And eclipse season also is huge because it asks us to release. And you've probably heard a lot of things about just let it go, just let it go, just release what's not serving you, let it go, right? Which is lovely talk, but how do you actually do that?
Let it go.
Right? How do you actually let it go? So we thought it might be helpful to talk about our own personal experiences, yes. Which is what I promise, is I'm going to share my own experiences in this ride and how I'm navigating it. Because I think it's important to know that even if you understand what's happening, it doesn't mean it's easier.
Oh, no.
Or somehow I have a magic wand that makes it go away, yeah, no. Right? So we thought it would be helpful to share our experiences of what's happening. And I mean, the last 5 weeks for me really have been just one hell of a throw-up roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. You are totally not alone. And I'm sure neither of us are alone as it is either. And just yesterday was the equinox as well. Mm-hmm. So there's everything. Everything is happening. Yeah, and we're not astrologers by trade, so we're not going to get too deep into that.
No.
But again,
I will actually give you, if you're looking for some personalized help to understand what's going on, I will be putting MA's information down below in the comments. She is fantastic for, here's what your chart says, and this is what, she's also very intuitive, what can help you move through it personally. So I will give you that information down in the comments below. So yeah, we're definitely, I know enough to be like
dangerous.
Well, not dangerous, but to like, okay, how can I relate this to my personal experience right now and move from that way, but I don't retain it, or there's a lot going on, all the nodes and the north node and the south node, and this is happening, and yeah, it's too much it's a rabbit hole I have chosen not to go down. So I am not going to really talk too much about it, other than there's a lot astrologically happening in the world today. More so, I think, I can't remember who said this, but more is happening astronomically than recorded astrological since in that history. So much is happening. So if it feels really intense, it's because it actually is.
It really is.
Really is intense.
Right. And even though, again, we're not experts in the field, everybody can feel the energy. If you're in tune with energy at all, you yourself know how it's going, know what it's feeling like, know what is happening. And maybe you don't know why. And again, that's what we're going to help with, is some tips to maybe get through some of this if you're feeling certain ways based on what we've been experiencing, because it's been a lot.
Yeah. So as you all know, if you've been following, I closed my brick and mortar store and shifted my business, and this was, I made that decision months ago. The store officially closed the end of February, and I still am not really sure what that's going to look like. So I've been in this amorphous sort of floaty abyss of, I don't know what's happening with my career or my business. While it is here and I'm still doing most of the things, I know it hasn't solidified. It hasn't changed completely. It hasn't it hasn't come out of the chrysalis and transformed into what it's going to be. And I don't know that it's probably going to be several more months before that happens. which, yes, that is really frustrating for me. So I've been in that, right? I've ended a relationship, which hasn't completely ended because they haven't moved out yet. But that's coming to a head. And how I work is changing, and relationships are falling away. Collaborations that were, really beautiful and wonderful have just ended, and not because it's a bad thing, but a lot of relationships are changing. And that's really the astrology we're in this last week or two. And this eclipse season is really focused on relationships because of something Venus is doing. And that's about as much as I know. She's transiting somewhere. I don't know. And so yeah, relationships are falling away, but new relationships are showing up. And what does that look like? And, I was the one who never wanted to really be in a relationship. And now I'm feeling the pull towards that. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I get my tax bill, which was shocking, horrifyingly shocking. And so, scarcity story. Yes. So not only the love story, but the career story. What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to earn a living? How am I going to support myself? And now this big financial drain. And it's a lot. And, you hear me talking and I say, I have a smile on my face and I'm kind of laughing about it, because what else are you going to do? Right. I could spiral out of control, and I could be in a ball in bed, upset, depressed. Oh my God, woe is me. Why is the world picking on me? I could go that way. However, that's not my vibe. That's not really how I move through life, or ever really have. And so for me, it's really been about kind of stepping back and taking that eagle-eye view of the big picture, and a lot of trust and a lot of patience.
Yes.
And a lot of self-support. So I'll go into some of those things after Natalie shares with you what she's been experiencing lately.
Mine, it's funny how it's the same themes too, same thing, relationships falling away, coming and going, and I think some of us, the first thought is, did I do something wrong? Mm-hmm. You automatically want to go to blame yourself. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too.
Yes.
And how not to do that, which again is easier said than done, but at least being aware helps in that step too.
Absolutely.
So, and then the same thing, that whole financial thing, that's a big piece for me. That's the lack coming in,
mm-hmm.
and where's the faith, and where's the knowing that the universe has your back.
Right. Sometimes you're like, really? But really? Does it really?
Right.
I'm not feeling very supported right now.
Right. Okay, is this really a lesson I really needed to learn right now?
And how many times do I need to learn this lesson, right?
Right, exactly. So I think we're going to go into some of those things. So mine are very similar.
Yeah.
And Marnie was talking about MA. I actually did a workshop with her the other day too, and she was talking all about relationships,
mm-hmm.
and not that it's a bad thing or a good thing either way. It's just different.
Yeah. So since relationships are the big theme, let's dive into that, because I feel like, from all of my clients, from everyone around me, I hear it a lot, and I've been hearing it actually for quite a while. This is not really new, this idea that we need to really be in alignment. Our relationships need to be on the same path as we are. And the thing is, there's 7 billion people on the planet, right? 7 billion people on the planet. The idea that you will get along with most of them is
slim to none.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that, right? And this idea of everybody being nice, or everybody being happy, or, trying to appease or make things work, it just doesn't. That's not what we're here for. We're really here to, who am I and what works for me? And a really important thing that I came to was, it's not about right or wrong. It's about not right for me.
Right. And what's best for me.
And
Definitely.
that was really huge because, like you said, we go into this place of blame. I immediately start being like, feeling like I have to defend who I am all the time. I have to defend that I'm too much or not enough of this and too much of that. And, I don't resonate and there's something wrong with me. And I go into that defensive mode of like feeling like I have to fight for myself all the time, which is not a good energetic place to be in. No. And I had this epiphany and I was like, oh, it's not right or wrong. It's not right for me. And that's okay. Like that released me from the conditioning that says I needed to fix it, right? Yes. Because we are all conditioned to think we need to fix it. We need to fix ourselves. We need to do something about it. We need to be nice. And no, we don't. We don't. And every time we try to do that, we get into that mindset of fixing or trying to make it okay. We get out of alignment, which causes us more stress, more anxiety, more dissonance, more disharmony, more everything that we don't want. So this year about advocacy and authenticity and really who are you, that's really showing up in relationships because the relationships are a mirror. Like this is a boundary and I don't want it crossed and it's not okay. So it's information we're gathering for ourselves of what we want in our lives so that we can be in alignment with that.
And we get to choose.
Yeah,
and I think that's the thing that we forget from social conditioning, from everything else, everything that you've been taught, raised, learned, whatever, is be nice. And we are trained to be people pleasers, but the sheer fact is, no, not everybody is right for us. And again, not wrong. They're not wrong, but they may be just in a different place and it's okay. And you're not saying like, no, I hate you. And I it's not even that. It has nothing to do with the other person. Right. Essentially, it's just not right for me. And that's okay. I get to choose.
Yes.
And it's how do we be okay with that? Mm-hmm. Especially like you were saying, a relationship. If it's a close relationship on, I think when you interviewed me, I said, same kind of thing. Like if somebody you don't know calls you and says, okay, I don't like you, I'm never talking to you again. You're like, okay, bye, see you later. If it's your mother, brother, sister, wife, cousin, somebody close, and they call you and they're like, okay, I'm done talking to you, I'm out. And you're like, oh crap. Yeah. Like it's that immediate, like, what did I do? What do I but no, it's okay, that's your choice. You get to have that choice and it doesn't have to be about me. Yeah. You go do what you need to do.
Yeah. And I think what's happening is our circles are getting smaller and smaller. And for good reason.
Yes.
Because if you have a large group of people, the chances are you're going to conform and sort of mold yourself to fit into the group versus really being authentic. And this life journey is a solo one. We can have relationships, we can have friendships, we can have partnerships and collaborations. But at the end of the day, really, the journey is about self. It is about being in alignment and what brings you joy and bringing your special magical sauce that you brought into the world and sharing it with the community, right? And that's a solo mission. We can have supporting actors, if you will.
Yes, exactly.
A supporting cast. But it is not, let's all do it together. It's we're all individually ascending. We're all individually growing ourselves so that we can be better as a whole. But we can't be good as a whole and not good individually.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. And it goes back to the old adage, like, if you can't love yourself, how can you give love to anybody else?
Correct.
So it still comes back to focusing on yourself. And again, we're not saying that you can't have people that help you. You can't find tools and find people and find your group.
And have good relationships.
Right. Exactly.
They're just going to be more refined.
Yes. Yes.
They're going to be more refined and more in alignment with who you are and where you want to go. And it doesn't mean you have to get along perfectly, but they have to support you no matter what. You want to support them no matter what sort of situation. And there's less and less and less of that happening, and it's okay. So what is our tip to really dealing with that? And what I have to say is surrender to the idea that not everyone is for you.
Yes.
And that's okay. And not make yourself wrong or them wrong, which is really what compassion is about. People think compassion is like, oh, I'm so sorry for you. That is not what compassion is. Compassion is, I see you for who you are, and I love you as a human being. And I also don't have to be friends with you or resonate with you or hang out with you or condone your bad behavior or, the spectrum there. It is about saying, I see you for who you are, and I love you as a fellow human. And then you decide.
Right.
Yeah.
And leave it at that. And that's fine.
Exactly.
And that's a great tip. And we all do make it hard. The other tip, and maybe this is just to see where you are on that scale. Women especially, when you wake up in the morning, no makeup, no brushing your hair, look in the mirror. And what is the first thing you want to say to yourself? And if you can't say, I love you just the way you are, there is some work to be done. And that's a good, basis for a starting point to know, okay, yeah, how can I be good with anybody else if I'm in my rawness, I'm in my morning glory, we'll call it.
I like that. My morning glory. That is now what I'm going to say.
And how do I feel about myself this morning? And that gives you a good clue, because if you don't like yourself this morning, first of all, how are you ever going to expect anybody else to like you? Mm-hmm. But it gives you a guide to where you are, and okay, so maybe I do need to focus a little more on myself and do some self-preservation, if you want to call it self-preservation. Louise Hay called it mirror work. She had I read her mirror work book, and it was good. She had a whole bunch of things like, in the morning, wake up and tell yourself you love you. And then there was one where you get a picture of yourself when you were I don't know, 1 to 5 years old, and you hang it on the mirror and you talk to yourself as a little girl person, whoever. But that kind of gives you a clue where you are. Yeah. And that can lead into a little more self-grace.
Yeah. And I'm guessing it's a really good barometer. If you're feeling super judgy of yourself that morning, the chances are you're going to be super judgy of everyone else too.
Right.
And which causes conflict in relationships, right? So again, if we want to have really good, stable, supportive, loving, nurturing relationships, we have to begin with ourselves. So maybe though you already have a big friend group, but you notice they're starting to fall away, or they make fun of you because you like crystals, or because you want to talk to an astrologer, or you have a new oracle deck or a tarot deck, right? That means that they don't resonate with you, right? That you have taken a fork in the road that is different than the path that they're on, and be okay with letting that fall away. It doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make you wrong, but really learning to be okay with not everything is for you. And wouldn't you rather be with and spend time and energy on what is for you, right? That's really the only way we're going to come to that self-advocacy, authenticity piece, is by pursuing what is for us, what feels good for us.
Right. And starting with yourself.
Yeah.
That's and it's a please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying it's easy, because that
is hard.
It is hard. But again, it's just a guide to give you a place of where you are. And if you do have that friend group where you're feeling super judgy of yourself, call them and say all right, I'm having a rough morning. Do you have any tips, tools, tricks for me? Just sit with yourself, meditate,
Yeah.
Anything you can do to get out of that judgment of yourself is
That is good. Because I guess it is really not just about relationships with others, but first and foremost, relationship with ourselves.
With yourself.
Which is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So all of those things are rising.
Oh, yes.
All of the relationship piece is really in our faces right now. So if your relationships are blowing up, there's something to look at. So rather than going down the path of, what's wrong with me and this is overwhelming and like really getting into that negative headspace, it's an opportunity. We have to take these things as opportunities and look at them and say, okay, why isn't it working? Okay, I see that it's not working. What isn't working? What isn't working for me? Where is the rub? What feels out of alignment? What feels icky in my body? And work with that.
Yeah.
That is the so we say tricks and tips. Here's the thing. There's not like a pill you can take to make it better, right?
No.
There's not like here's your magic wand and you just ding it at this relationship and it'll be fine. No, it requires us to participate, to actively be involved in what is happening in our life and to shift it if it's not working. So it means you actually have to work at it.
Well, and it also means sitting with that yucky emotion that we were all taught to bury.
Yeah.
That we were all taught not, like...
Oh, I feel bad. Let me go eat a pint of ice cream and go shopping and not think about this. No.
Right, no.
I mean, you can still have a pint of ice cream if you want to. And
Yeah,
you can
totally.
go shopping, but I can tell you, if you don't also do the work, those things will just create more problems. So we have to actually sit with what is going on and why do I, what story, childhood trauma is being pulled up with this relationship that's breaking down and look at that and work with it.
Yeah. And again, if you need help, there are people out there that can definitely help you, but it's something you're going to have to decide for yourself. The old saying, like, I want you to quit smoking. I want you to quit smoking. I want you to quit smoking. And you have the nag. But until you're ready to do that for yourself, it doesn't matter how many people tell you that it's bad for you and that it's gross. Until you're ready to do it, it's not happening. So, and it kind of goes with this. Like, you can totally bury those emotions and you can totally eat a pint of ice cream and go shopping. It's still going to come back to bite you.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we have that much more space for pushing aside. And I think that's the reason it feels so incredibly intense right now, which I've been watching over the last
coming up.
Few years, the dial really getting cranked up and faster and harder each year. It seems to be more and more intense. And that is the ascension process, right? We're in the shift. It's not coming. It's in here. It. This is what it is. It means you have to shift everything that's out of alignment for you, everything that's not working for you, every story you've been told, every way you've tried to conform and contort yourself into others' ideals and ethics and morals and values is coming to the surface because it doesn't work and you need to make a different choice. So yeah, you could try to ignore it, but I can tell you it's not going to go away. Actually, there is really no pushing down anymore, at least in my experience with who I've been working with. You just can't. It is time. You have to do it.
It's definitely coming up. It's downright slapping people in the face. I mean, it's totally there. And I even see it with my clients too. Like, they're coming to me saying, oh, I have this coming up and I don't know where it came from. And we dig a little deeper and we find out where it came from. But like, it's now. Like, yeah. I don't know why this is coming up now. Well, it's because everything's coming up for everybody right now. It's the way it's going.
So let's go down that path of, I hear, and I've heard this as long as I've been in the healing industry. I thought I dealt with that, right?
And my famous one.
My favorite thing to say when a client says that is I look at them very, very seriously in the eye and I say, duck. Because the minute you say, I think I've dealt with that, I've already dealt with that, it is going to come back and get you. Not because you're being punished or the universe is like, ha, 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 no, let me show you. No, you haven't. Because we are on an ascending spiral. This is how I describe it. We are in this cyclical process of revisiting all of the life lessons that we chose to learn over and over again, except that it's ascending. It's not the same circle on the ground. We have a deeper understanding. We ascend more. We understand more. We come at it from a different way. We're in a more healed place. And each time we come back to those things, it's not the same because we have tools and understanding in a deeper way that helps us move through those things. So yeah, that is the nature of life, is to keep circling back to lessons that we want to learn. And if it's coming back, it means you haven't dealt with it completely,
fully,
right?
right?
You have learned something and you maybe dealt with it where your learning was at that moment, but you're in a higher place now. You're vibrating higher, so you need to deal with it in this vibrational energy that you're in now. And also, I was listening earlier today. I wish I could quote who it was. I don't remember. But they were talking about this idea of things coming back again and again. And it feels like we're kind of reversing, we're retroing back into old behaviors. But what this person was talking about was that's actually a collapsing of the timelines. And I thought, isn't that interesting? She's like, so we keep seeing things that we have maybe processed, moved through, and they're coming back again, but it's not because they're coming back, it's because they're being rewoven into this new higher timeline. So I don't really fully understand how that works.
Right.
Right? But it's an interesting idea. And I bring it up because I think it's important that we stop looking at things with the old mindset, with the very young 3D, low vibrational, dense mindset. We have to start looking at things from a higher vibration, where we want to go, not where we've been. And so that means being open to new ideas, new understandings. Well, I don't really know what that means, but it feels to me like a bit of an ease to think, okay, I'm not revisiting this again. I'm just watching it collapse. I'm watching the different timelines collapse and reweaving into a timeline that I want to be on, that's in this ascension, higher vibrational, direction that it's going. And so I think it's important that we go, okay, well, this isn't like it was, because you're not like you were. I'm not like I was 2 months ago, much less 5 years ago, much less 10 years ago, right? So we have to approach these things in a higher mindset.
Well, yeah, and the mindset too is like the fear piece of it. Like, are you afraid of this? Because clearly you definitely have more work to do if you are. But you can also, I mean, certain things that come back around that maybe you have dealt with, you can say, okay, I see you. Thank you. No, I don't need you anymore. We're good. Mm-hmm. And if you can say that to whatever it may be, then you are good and you can move on. And I think that's the part,
a great tip.
That's a part of the release of it too. Like, okay, I see you coming back around. I'm not bothered by you anymore. Thanks for teaching me my lesson.
Yeah.
Keep moving on.
You do not have to jump down the rabbit hole.
Right.
Just because you see it again.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you, no. That's a good one. That's one of my things, and I do say that often. Thank you, no. I don't need you anymore.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I totally agree with that. I think we do. It's so easy to go, because I think that's the nature of the brain, to go into that defensive, negative, save your ass sort of mindset. That's its pre-programmed Neanderthalic state we have not evolved out of, and I think it's really easy to go there. And so it takes, we were talking about this right before the podcast, it takes discipline to pull yourself out of that negative mindset. And maybe you have to say it 20 times or 40 times or 100 times in a day. But with practice, it happens. MA said yesterday that optimism and hope are disciplines. And that really landed for me, because I used to always say I was like a hopeless romantic, and I was sort of sickeningly optimistic. And I kind of made them negative characteristics.
Right, you put a negative connotation.
I did. I put them in a negative way. And I felt like that was a weakness. And when she said it was a discipline, I was like, oh, yes. So optimism is continually pulling myself out of the negative mindset and into the positive mindset, into optimism. And no, we're not talking about that toxic positivity, because nobody needs that. I'm talking about optimism. Like, okay, I recognize this is hard. I recognize I'm in pain, I'm in fear, I'm in anger, I'm in judgment, whatever. I recognize this emotion, and I trust that it will be okay. That's optimism.
Yes.
Toxic positivity is, it's going to be great. Everything is rainbows and sunshines and unicorns, and it's all just wonderful, which is not true.
No, it's not true. But on the flip side of that, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we were also talking before the podcast, which I think is another good tip, tool, whatever. No matter where you are, you can find something. one
Yes.
tiny little thing to either be grateful for or to appreciate. It could be as simple as when we were just talking about looking in the mirror. Oh, you have good eyes. Okay, my eyes can see. My eyes can see color. My eyes can see texture. I can see in the mirror. I can actually see my face. Thank you, eyes. Like something tiny. If you're able to walk and move, thank you to my feet and my legs for carrying me around. Like, it doesn't have to be this whole, like, epiphany of, oh my God, I love everyone and everything in the whole
Well, because that's a
world.
lie.
Right, like the sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. And I love all those things, so don't get me wrong.
Me too. I'm a unicorn in my lap right now.
Right, exactly. But on the flip side, like, you can be in serious pain, and quite frankly, my pain is revisiting me too, just to say, hey, I'm back. What are you going to do with me this time? But I can still function, and so I can appreciate the other parts of my body that are not currently in pain, that are still working for me.
Right. Which pulls your mind out of that negative mindscape into an optimistic, hopeful place.
Correct. And it's not so easy as saying, oh yeah, it's going to be perfectly fine because you're physically in pain. It's okay, it's okay. I can still function. Like, those you just said hope and optimism, discipline. It's that little shred of hope. It's that little, okay, it's okay. I can still do things. I can still move. And that's my personal thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody has their own, but look for those little tiny.
Yeah. Or big things. So we could talk about one of the other things that's really coming up right now is the scarcity, lack, money story, right? I don't think I've ever talked to a single client that didn't have some sort of story around this. And so this week I got my tax bill, which was, like I said, shocking. And I immediately wanted to spin out. Oh my God, my business is changing and everything's, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I don't want to let go of my savings and whatever. And MA said to me, but you have it to pay it. And I was like, oh my God, she was so right. So she was like helping me shift my mindset from this way of being devastated. And don't get me wrong, it's still a little devastating. But
it's scary.
It is scary.
It's flat out scary. We were all taught, you need money to survive. You need money to do this.
You need money in the bank,
that.
right?
Money. So it is a little scary.
It is very scary. But every time I'm kind of panicking about it or I feel it in my body, I think, but I happen to have the money and I can pay it and I don't have to go into debt over it. I don't have to borrow money from anyone. And that is a fortunate thing. MA was also talking about, the energy of money is quite feminine, which I hadn't really thought of that. But if you think about currency, current is flow, right? All of the language around money is actually our feminine energy. But, and this was horrifying to me when she told me this, not until 1974, I think it was 74, 75, 74, was a woman allowed to open a bank account without a husband or father signing for her. I was 4 years old. This is my lifetime. My mother could not open a bank account by herself until I was 4 years old. That is horrifying to me. And so the reason I bring this up is this is a money story that we are all carrying. This is something we are all changing. So scarcity is coming up for us.
Oh, totally.
The lack is coming up for us. Where's it coming from? The fact that women don't make as much as men, like all of that stuff is coming up, and it's louder and louder and louder because it is a fucked up story that we are all being asked to heal and to shift. So while I'm terrified and I don't want to let go of this massive amount of money, I'm thinking, but this is my opportunity to do my piece to obliterate this lack story, this scarcity story, right? So I'm shifting my mindset and focusing on how can I be positive about this? How can I change this? Oh my God, what am I going to do to survive? Which we all carry, into I have it and I'm going to stop that story here. I get to stop this story here in my life. And I think that's everything that's coming up. Every story that we're experiencing, everything that's arising that we're having to face, it's our opportunity to change the dialogue around it.
Yes. Yeah. And it is. Again, every one of my clients, I don't know anybody who it's not coming up for, essentially. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money.
So.
Which is so funny because it's this arbitrary thing, and really money is just energy, and we've made up this thing. So it's this illusion, right? We've all agreed to play this really horrible game until you stop agreeing to play the horrible game. Right? So I'm having to go, I have it, I'm paying it. I'm not being part of this game. I'm not going to play the lack story.
Right.
Same with relationships. Oh my gosh, I don't have enough friends. What? Who said
you had to have so many friends?
Or any for that matter, that somehow, I mean, while yes, we are human and we desire connection, that isn't the journey. The journey is this individual experience, exploration, getting to know who you are. And can we have connections? Absolutely. But this idea that we have to have a partner, a husband, a wife, a mate, have to have a circle of friends, have to have, like, all of those are just other stories.
And they're conditioning.
They
are 100% conditioning.
Which doesn't serve us because it creates this idea that we can't do it alone.
Correct. Right.
That somehow we are incapable, we are not whole, we are lacking, we're insufficient as we are. So the whole life, so any stories you're experiencing right now, anything that's coming up, anything that's feels like it's blowing up or falling away, it's because it's whatever it was, it's keeping you from really being fully, wholly you as you are without any influence.
And so let's flip it a little bit for our listeners.
Okay.
And if you have, let's say you're in Marnie's situation and you have this horrendous tax bill, flip it and go to your worst case scenario. Okay, Marnie, you don't have the money in the bank. What would you have done? And if you take yourself down to the worst case scenario, to what's really going to happen, you're still going to be here.
Yeah, I'll still be okay.
Right. And I think our monkey mind takes us to the, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to live? But okay, let's
actually ask the question. What is the worst thing?
Right. Mm-hmm. What is the worst thing? And go to your worst case scenario.
And it's never as bad as the brain makes it out.
It's never that bad. And in that moment, in the now moment, in the now, because it's not the past, it's not the future, you're in the now, it's the present, it's a gift, that's why it's called the present.
So cliche.
Exactly. But you are okay. I think we all forget that because you get so focused on the,
oh my God,
I had this happen before. If this plays out the same way it did before, then I'm going to be here and I'm not going to have X, Y, and Z and I can't do this. No. Okay. Worst case scenario is, okay, maybe I have to borrow some money. Maybe I have to take out a loan. But you know what? I'm still here. And right here and now, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good thing for a perspective too.
Yeah.
To maybe go down that I'm not okay, get there, be in your worst case scenario, and then like, oh, but okay. I honestly had a client 2 days ago who told me she and her husband were struggling. And she's like, I can't leave him. I don't know what to do, but I am so unhappy. And I said, why? Well, because we support each other. Okay. And so we actually had the conversation and we talked through the worst case scenario. I'm like, okay, so let's say instead of leaving, let's take it to the drastic end. If he dies tomorrow, what's going to happen to you anyway? Like, you don't know what's going to happen regardless. Right. So go there and just, I'm not saying that you have to break up. I wasn't leading her down that path, but right. I was leading her to the worst case scenario. You're still going to be here and you're still going to be okay and you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Because I think we do tend to, well, I can't do that. We don't go down and answer the question, what is the worst case scenario and how would that work out, right? We don't do that. We stay in that I can't leave and I'm miserable energy.
Yes. Which
keeps us out of alignment. It keeps us in disharmony, right? Because then you're not advocating for yourself. You're not being authentic. You are stuck in a story, in a situation that is not going to serve you, right?
Right.
And your life is going to blow up because we are being asked to get into alignment with who we are, period.
Right. And that's our relationship. That's the relationship energy that's here. But again, one of those things. But
even not just that. With our jobs, with our careers, with our financial stories, with, who we are, what are we judging?
Right.
I mean, the list goes on and on.
It does. We could talk for hours on this.
We could talk for hours on this. So whatever is arising, right? So we talked about shifting the mindset into optimism and hope and focusing on being grateful for what we have.
Bit of thankfulness, appreciation.
Right.
Yes.
Panning out from the minutia of it, and really taking an eagle eye view and recognizing, okay, what can I learn from this and what's serving me and what isn't, and making decisions that advocate for ourselves. It's really important to do that. And nobody cares what you're doing.
No.
Stop worrying about what everyone else thinks, because nobody cares what you're doing, because they're going through their own blowing up of a life scenario as well, right? In one way or another, it's happening for everyone.
I'm picturing shit show as you're saying that. Like that's I'm seeing this vision of like everybody like screaming, running, yelling with their hands up in the air. But it's what's happening right now.
Yeah. Refocusing. Yes. It's really important. Refocusing is really important. If you do have a person who's your person, who you trust and can talk to, confide in, talk to them every day if you can, and talk through it, because each of you gets to be objective for the other one and be like, it's okay. You've got this, you can do this, you're strong, you're empowered, you are capable. Those are the words that we need to hear. And if you don't have that person, then look yourself in the mirror and tell it to yourself, right? Exactly. This is not a time for those who are faint of heart.
No.
This is not a time to recoil and be meek and I can't do it and I have to have others. Stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
Pull out your sword or your torch, as we talked about in the January 1st podcast. Pull out your torch and lead your way, because you are the only one you are accountable to and the only one who's going to get you over that finish line.
You are. And if you need help, there are resources. There are resources. Tools. There are people like Marnie and I that do what we do.
Coach. If you don't have someone, get a coach. Find a coach. Find a Facebook group where there's hopefully people not whining and bitching and complaining, but actually supporting and helping, lifting other people up. Yes, if they're whining and complaining, get off. That's not serving anybody. Find a coach. Find MA, like I said, find an astrologer who can help you understand the astrology that's going on. I love it. She says astrology isn't predictive, it's revelatory. And I like that. I really love that she thinks that way, because it's not about predicting. It's about, here's the energies that you're coming into and how can you move through that in a way that supports you. And of course, do things like meditation and,
And there's free apps everywhere for meditation. I mean, it's all over YouTube, Insight Timer. I mean, you name it, you can click anything in your phone and find a meditation.
Right. It's about really pulling yourself out of the past and out of the future into the present moment so that you can look at what's going on with clear vision.
Yes.
Journaling's a great way. It's something I
Yes.
do all the time. I will ask the question, what does the breakdown of this relationship mean? How am I feeling? And you do stream of consciousness writing, so you're not answering the question. You're letting your higher self, your guides, angels, God, spirit, whatever you want to say, talk through you to receive the answers. And often you hear exactly the words that you need in that moment, which is usually, it's okay, you're not alone,
Right.
you're supported, you're going to be fine.
Right. And that's what Marnie does. I typically give myself a reading every morning. I have a couple different decks that I play with, and I pull cards for myself. I pull one from each deck, and that's like my reading for the day. And what is my message for today? So there's lots of fun things you can do. And
because that
of,
helps guide you. Like, okay, here's something that could potentially be coming up for you, so you can be not watching for it in the fearful kind of way, but aware.
right.
Okay, I know today same with astrology. Conversations may be challenging today, so I'm maybe not going to pick a fight.
Right.
I'm maybe not going to have that deep conversation today.
Right.
Maybe I'm going to wait until another day when tensions are lower and the energy is more conducive for that sort of thing, right? We use the information at your disposal, which is literally everywhere, to help support you move through this time of transformation. It is big work. It is asking a tremendous amount of us, and we are all absolutely capable of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think those are some good tips. I think, just be conscious, be aware.
That is the trick.
Yeah.
Right. That is really, because I think for the most part, most of humanity is sleepwalking.
Yeah.
Right. They're not awake. They're not conscious. And they are experiencing deep fear, deep terror. Oh my gosh. Really, in the muck of the density of the 3D.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you don't want to be in that, wake up.
Right.
Wake up and be conscious.
Yes. Yes.
Be conscious with your actions, with your thoughts, with your words, with your energy. Be conscious.
And if you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to actually put a bunch of links at the bottom for if you live in my area, things you can attend and come to, and services. I just got a sound bed, which is phenomenal. It's a great way to really get present and pull you out of the swirling tornado of thoughts and challenges, to ground you and allow you to be able to move more consciously.
It is.
It's
amazing. I've been on it. It's wonderful. I can't say enough good things about it. It's hard to describe, but it's worth it.
We'll put Natalie's information and my information as well. We're both available in person or online. And also MA's information. She's an amazing resource for really personalized intuitive astrology, and I love that. And then anything else we can think of, we'll stick at the bottom that might be helpful in helping you during this this is the tumultuous time we are in. It is tumultuous, and we all have the capability of getting through it. And I think that's really important to know. You can do it.
Yeah, you absolutely can do it.
And you have to. There's really not an option.
No.
There's not an option.
Well, there is. We can't say there's not an option. There is always free will. You can remain in the dark, but it's going to keep pressuring you.
You can stay in the 3D
until you realize it. It's going to keep coming up and coming up and coming up.
I don't think people who are clinging to the 3D are probably
are
listening to us.
That's probably true. So yes, all right, don't ignore it. Go with it.
Until next time, I am Marnie, audaciously asking you to be conscious. Thank you.